Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers. It's Kieran here and welcome to the latest in our series of videos in partnership with COROS. In this video, we're going to be talking beginner running kit. So if you're new to running and you're wondering what kit you need to get started, you've come to the right place. So Nick, between us, we've hit upon a number of kind of essential areas of kit that we think are really important. Will you take us through what those areas are and why every runner should be looking at them?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to start with shoes. That's pretty self-explanatory. Running shoes are really very helpful when you're running. It makes everything a lot more comfortable. We're also going to talk about watches and what features are really important when you're first starting out running to look for on a watch. Then clothes. Now you don't have to go all out and buy a whole wardrobe of running gear straight away, but we've picked out some kind of areas that it is quite important to think about early on in your running, just to make the whole experience more comfortable and enjoyable. Another big area is basically belts or arm pouches or some way to carry your phone, because carrying your phone is very useful on the run, and other essentials as well. And lastly, we're going to talk about headphones, because it doesn't really matter actually what level of runner you are. It's nice to have some kind of audio entertainment on the go, whether it's music, podcasts, or even like guided workouts if you started with something like a Couch to 5K program.
And in each of these sections, we're going to take you through what to look for, what are the big things that you can mistakes that you could avoid. We've made a lot of them in the past, so hopefully we're going to help you miss out on those. So let's get right into it. So first up, we're going to talk about all-important shoes. Now, arguably, this is one of the most important pieces of kit you're going to need beyond a pair of shorts and a t-shirt to keep your dignity. There are so many shoes out there now on the market. They come at a huge range of prices, and there's some very, very pricey shoes indeed that beginner runners can be kind of steered towards. But Nick, talk us through what you think is really important as a beginner runner when you're going out and looking for that first pair of shoes.
I always think it's really great, if you can when you're first starting out, to go to a running shop or somewhere you can try on a few different shoes, because actually almost the most important thing is whether the shoe feels right. You'll get some advice from salespeople there and stuff like that, but there's all kinds of studies and information out there about what running shoe is best for you in different ways, but really you can really rely on the feeling of a shoe. If it feels right, it's probably the right one for you, and in general steer towards kind of cushioned, comfortable options, because when you're first starting out, the impact of running can be quite hard on the body, and it's good to have a shoe that can kind of protect you from that.
And I guess I would totally agree on the comfort thing. You kind of know, go with your instincts actually when you put that shoe on and feel it. But the other thing I think to look for potentially, Nick, is versatility in a shoe. So we're seeing lots of shoes that are sort of targeted at particular types of running, but when you're first starting out, you're going to want a shoe that's going to be able to sort of cope with the growth of you as a runner, right?
Yeah, I think it's really, and you'll kind of know going into this what kind of runner you're going to be. Like if you're someone, like when I first started running, I was already doing other sports. I was quite into sports, and I was already starting to think about races and stuff like that. And you start breaking down your training. Maybe you started by signing up for a marathon, and you've got speed sessions as well as long runs on your kind of plan. You want a shoe that can kind of handle all of those and be quite durable. So there's lots to look out for. But actually today you can get a really nice cushioned, comfortable shoe that isn't too heavy. That's still good for speed work. The market's come a long way, and you can get a shoe that's fantastic for doing it all, really.
And the other thing I wanted to add is price. People often sort of ask me, do I need to spend an awful lot of money or buy the top end shoe to get the shoe that's right? Are they the best shoes? And actually, one of the things I always say is it doesn't really matter what price, what brand even. The right shoe for you is the right shoe for you. So don't be swayed by spending more. It doesn't necessarily mean you're buying a better shoe for sure. If you're lucky, a brilliant shoe for you to run in will be the one that costs you 60 quid, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I will say also, if you do find a shoe that you really like, if it's like a shoe that's got like a number 20 at the end of its name, maybe go and try and find the 19th version of it and see if it's in a sale somewhere, because often the shoes don't change that much between generations, and you can get almost the same feeling shoe, cheaper in an older colorway or something like that.
And then just one final, what was your first shoe, Nick? What did you start running in?
So talking about mistakes you can make, I started running with the Adios, the racing flat that was used to kind of set the world record in Berlin, like in the early 2000s, because my mate decided to buy some running shoes, and we looked at it, we thought, well, we'll get the very best shoe available. He got a shoe, and we both ended up, in this racing flat that was murder on the body, because, we weren't like Dennis Cometto running world record pace. We're jogging around our park, and we ended up with a shoe that wasn't nearly cushioned enough for our needs. So don't just look at elites would be my guess. Okay, next up is a running watch. Now, in general, whatever level of runner you are, the advice I always give to someone trying to buy a running watch is to think of all the features you really need, absolutely essential to you to have on your watch, and then basically try and find the cheapest watch that does all those things for you. And when it comes to kind of new runners starting out, there's some features that we think are particularly useful, right, Kieran?
But when you're just beginning, there's some core things that I think it helps you get into the groove of running, and intensity management or just managing your effort levels and your pacing is one of the key things. So you're looking for a running watch, I think I always recommend, that's got a good kind of heart rate sensor built into it. You can use a chest strap, but optical is nice and convenient. Again, for beginner runners, you may not need to be sort of as laser focused about the overall sort of accuracy. Chest strap beefs up the accuracy, but essentially making sure that you're not going out and running too hard, too fast, too early is a key one. And using heart rate zone sort of tracking is a really, really useful way of doing that. Again, you can also kind of look at good kind of accurate pacing as another way of also kind of managing your intensity. But one of the things that I sort of hear people say when they go out and run, to me, that run was sort of so hard. And if you're basically running out the door at kind of 90% of your capacity, you're not going to enjoy it, and you might not want to go again. So, I think this is a really core feature that just helps you kind of ease your way into running. And actually, the big thing is to sort of enjoy it, and managing intensity I think is one big way to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And if you talk to any, we're experienced runners, like so rare, like maybe 20-30% of my runs each week feel hard, because the key is to get lots of nice easy runs in, and like you say, managing intensity through using heart rate, pacing, watches that will maybe tell you how long to recover after a workout, and then ideally you can get a training plan onto your watch, and then you can follow that and it will kind of structure it for you, so you're not going out the door and killing yourself every time, because it's actually kind of counterproductive in terms of your fitness, and you're going to not really like running. And we want you to love running. We love running, and you should too.
Yeah, and the other things I think people would sort of say, sometimes you think, well, why don't I just use an app? I've got lots of run tracking apps out there that will do the same if you're carrying your phone. But there's something really good about having the information where you can see it. Particularly again, when you're a beginner runner, you've got to look for little kind of motivational wins along the way. Looking at, I often gauge on time rather than distance as well. So I'd like to sort of go out and just extend my runs by a little bit of extra time. You can see how long you've been running on the watch. Putting all of those sort of bits of data where you can see it nice and easy, I think is a really useful kind of reinforcer. It builds up your confidence over time, I think.
And I will say now, the good news is that you can get kind of all the real essential features here, built-in GPS, good heart rate monitor, training load analysis for kind of well under £200 these days. You don't have to spend big bucks on very expensive running watches. Something like the COROS Pace 2, which I'm wearing here, will kind of tick off all the features really runners of any level need. But yeah, it's great for beginners. It's nice, small, lightweight, good battery life, and will get all your your accurate info across.
And the other thing with that, I think it's got room for you to grow again, and talk about with the shoes, but grow as a runner. So the more serious you might become about running, or the more you get into it and enjoy it, there's enough feature set there to kind of grow with you as you become kind of, I guess, more obsessed.
Next up, we've got a little section on ways basically to carry things with you on the run. Now, a lot of running shorts don't come with very good pockets. Things are changing on that front, we're pleased to say, but you might need something like a running belt or a armband that carries your phone, because there are essentials you need with you on the run. Isn't that right, Kieran?
Yeah, and again, this is about kind of almost like carrying security with you. For me, when I first started running, I'd have keys, I'd probably have a bank card, I might have a travel card if you need one to sort of move around the city or wherever you are. I might have a little bit of money and my phone. All of those things give you the kind of comfort that no matter what happens to you when you go out on a run, that you've got options. You can be kind of safe and secure, contact people, buy water, get on a bus, all of those things. And that means carrying a reasonable amount of kit with you initially. Now, there are some great kind of options for this. My favorite is just a sort of running belt, essentially with a lot of pockets, like a slimline running belt that lets you stash all of that stuff. But there are some other ways to do it. I'm not a big fan of the arm strap for the phone, but we're also seeing now belts that come with capacity to carry all of those items plus water bottles on the side, so you can then feel confident about your hydration as well. I guess also moving into things like a simple lightweight ultra running vest. And again, I think for a beginner runner, this is not something you absolutely have to have, an ultra running vest, but you also don't have to be an ultra runner to use one of these things. So I don't think you have to look at someone and say, that's not me, just because you're a beginner. Anything that's going to help you move with those things that you need, that's going to make you feel comfortable to get longer miles in, I think is really important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you're someone maybe you started running because you maybe have entered a marathon or something like that, having a way to carry water with you reliably and comfortable, which is a vest, a little ultra vest, little rucksack, is really useful. And I always think with those, there are some running backpacks out there that actually, if you're not buying like a dedicated running backpack or ultra vest, they won't have little pockets in the straps. And I think don't underestimate how important those little pockets in the straps are for carrying it's a real faff to take a rucksack on the run and get something. So if you can get all your nutrition in those straps whilst having the water fed from behind, it's really useful. And it makes just running a little bit less of a faff at times, which is always useful, I think.
So I think the next one, clothes, is something that it's very easy to just think, I'm just going to stick on the old t-shirt and the old socks that I've got in the drawer, go out and run. Now, you can absolutely do that, but the one thing that I know about running is if you don't get comfortable, it's going to make it harder. And this is where clothing comes in. You don't have to spend a huge amount of money, but there are some sort of technical elements to a good kind of set of clothing kit that I think makes the run more comfortable, makes you more likely to go out and do it again, which is an absolute essential for a beginner runner. Nick, talk us through some of the key areas in clothing that you think are really important to look for first.
When you start running, you're going to hear the word wicking a lot, sweat wicking. It basically means the clothes will kind of lift the sweat from your skin and let it evaporate away. And basically, the clothing is trying to stay dry and not too kind of sodden with sweat, because if that is, it will start to rub on your skin or rub against other parts of the body, and it becomes very uncomfortable. Chafing is a word that it's a word that when you start running suddenly becomes part of your daily lexicon, and you don't want to hear it too much because chafing is not fun at all. And that's really why you don't want to go out in kind of nice cotton clothes that get saturated with sweat and kind of hang against the skin and become very uncomfortable if you're running for any length of time, really.
You only make the mistake of getting properly chafed once, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. It really doesn't feel good. And you'd be surprised, you don't actually have to run for that long to get quite serious chafing if you're in the wrong bit of kit.
And then so you're looking in some cases for kind of more technical fabrics, I guess. What kind of areas, though, should I be looking as my most important?
So, when it comes to your very first, set of running gear, the key areas are probably, t-shirt, shorts and socks. And for me, I'd say shorts are probably the most important for me personally in terms of concerns about chafing and all that kind of thing. You want a nice, lightweight set of shorts that is either, you can get a compression set that sticks to your skin, and then that will kind of reduce the risk of chafing, or you can get a nice technical set of loose fitting shorts that won't rub you in any uncomfortable areas. But yeah, I think the same is kind of true of socks. You kind of can easily underestimate socks, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I'm really kind of a fan of investing in a decent pair of socks. I've got some that I really like that I will use over, and I bought kind of 4 or 5 pairs of those, and I think they do make a difference. Again, when you're first starting out, if you haven't got your old sort of tired, worn feet like I've got from the miles, blisters are a big problem early on, and socks can really help kind of alleviate that, and finding a pair that you really like I think is one of the most important bits of kit. So socks are important for sure. What about t-shirts, Nick?
I think just get yourself a nice lightweight technical t-shirt. It really doesn't have to cost very much these days, and it basically will stop the sweat kind of bunching up in the fabric and rubbing you in areas no one wants to be rubbed, Kieran.
I mean, ask a runner, if you know a runner who's run marathons, ask them if they're your size. They're going to have 100 t-shirts in a drawer they will give you. Technical t-shirts they've been given at races. Drop me a line. I've got hundreds you can have.
And then when we talk about jackets, now this is something that, it's not always going to be essential for runners, but actually there are times when it will more or less make a difference between a run being enjoyable and a run being horrible.
Yeah, jackets, I think, again, when you're a beginner runner, I think it's just really important. You're looking for things that are going to make it easy for you to get out the front door and feel comfortable when you're out there, almost regardless of the weather. And a decent jacket can really help with that. Gives you comfort, keeps you warm, helps you sort of carry things. I think, all of those things, it's a bit like a security blanket. Again, you don't have to spend huge amounts of money. There are very, very, very sort of high-spec technical jackets, but really just investing at this point in something that's going to keep a bit of the wind off, maybe keep a bit of the water off, and it's going to give you that sort of comfort to go out even when it becomes a little bit inclement outside.
Yeah, I definitely say when you're first starting out, you don't need to go for a full waterproof, because if it's a cheap one, it might feel a bit too hot and sweaty, and the really good ones are very expensive. If you're only going out for kind of half an hour, a wind and water resistant jacket will will keep the rain off you unless you're stepping out into like a hurricane. And just don't run then if that is the case.
So last but definitely not least, we want to talk about headphones. Now, this is arguably, you could say it's not an essential piece of kit, but there's lots and lots of studies that show listening to music or, listening to podcasts can enhance your performance when you're a beginner. Great for motivation, it can help you go longer, it can kind of reduce levels of fatigue. This has all kind of been scientifically tested. So investing in a set of headphones to put some sounds behind your run can be a kind of really powerful thing to do. Nick, if you're looking for headphones though, what should a beginner runner really look for first?
So I think the big thing with headphones these days is you can kind of get away with not using wired headphones anymore. Now there are so many good, really very affordable, like kind of wireless headphones available now, and that's just so much better for running because you're not having to worry about a wire tugging your headphones out or catching on something while you're running. So I would look, because there are sets of truly wireless headphones now that for 20 quid that are great, and I think that's that's a fantastic development. I started running with wired headphones and it's a lot more annoying than wireless ones. But if you are going wireless, the most important thing probably is the fit, I'd say, because they've got to stay in your ears. If you constantly adjusted them or they're falling out, then that's basically as bad as having no headphones at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, and after fit, I think the next thing that I look for is kind of battery life. You want something that maybe you're not going to have to charge so often. And then finally, on the durability front, if you can find something that's got a higher IP rating, so it's kind of waterproof, sweatproof, it's got a little bit more protection. And increasingly, we're starting to see some headphones come where the case is also protected. So if you're taking that out on your runs and you get caught in the rain, you've also got some security from that. And I guess the other thing, if you don't like the idea of going out and running first and being kind of isolated, you want a bit more awareness of what's going on around you. You've got a few other options now, right?
Yeah, so bone conduction headphones are kind of very popular these days, and they hook over your ears and the pads sit on your cheekbones, and actually that's it, your ears are completely clear. The vibrations from those kind of pads will deliver the audio directly to your skull, I guess is the scientific way of saying that. And that means your ears are completely clear. So, a lot of people will be running around busy city centres, that kind of thing. And it's just nice to, make sure you're not completely closing off the world at times, because you do need to be aware of that 2-ton bus that's coming down the street near you. So that's definitely something to look out for. And actually, even if you are getting in-ear headphones that block out all external sound, a lot of them have a transparency mode that you can activate, which does filter in some external noise. So even if your ears are plugged, you're not completely oblivious to what's going on around you.
So there you go, that has been our whistle-stop tour of all the kit we think beginner runners can really benefit from. If you're new to running and you're not really sure where to turn next, whether it's with your shoes, your shorts, whatever, get in touch, hit us up in the comments below. We're really happy to answer questions and help people along. As Nick said in the video, we want people to fall in love with running as much as we do. Don't forget to check out all the other videos in our COROS partnership series. There's some great tips and advice in those other videos too. Like and subscribe, of course, got to do that. And yeah, we hope to see you again soon on the Run Testers.